This is a Kirblog where I'm looking back on the stuff I recorded for over the year and compiled them into a single month called Voiceoctover. And hey, everybody. So this is the first week of November that this will be coming out. I'm recording some stuff ahead of time. I've been time traveling for the last month or so. Last couple months, it seems like I've just been doing a lot of preparation ahead of time, having a lot of this stuff done. I've been very tied up with doing a lot of different things lately, and so I wanted to do a little Kirblog. I decided just to fill up this first week here to kind of look back on some of the stuff that I worked on. We recorded the actually, first of all, I want to give a very special shout out to all of the wonderful guests that I had join me for all the entire month, all the special guest Kirblogs that I had on board to do this with, as well as Omadon for editing the audio for all of the Did You Know voice acting episodes and all the fantastic artists that I borrowed music from and everything. It's all thanks to their collective effort that this was a really fun month of lots of cool stuff that I hope all of you enjoyed. And of course, also big thanks to everybody who helped out. Zero Incorporated, who edited a lot of the videos together. All the Tome staff and cast who did the commentaries and everything leading up throughout the month as well. We're in the middle of putting out a little bit more behind-the-scenes Tome, stuff kind of leading up to the 4-year anniversary. But anyway, so I wanted to look back and talk about the two games that I talked about and had a bunch of the cast along with me, which was Disgaea 5 and Tales of Zestiria. Disgaea 5, I had not really gotten to see any of the main story material for it all until long after we recorded that together. And Tales of Zestiria I had seen a fair amount of before we went into recording that one. But by this point, I've watched all the cutscenes of both games, and now I'm much more familiar with their story. I have a much higher amount of context for what was actually going on with not only my character but everybody else as well. And I guess to start off with, because a lot of you guys could probably tell that we didn't know absolutely every single finite detail of everything involving the game. I'm sure most people wouldn't expect that of us because, we go in, we record the lines, they give us the most amount of context we can get. We perform it to the best of our ability, and, it all kind of comes together. But I will say that watching both, I really genuinely enjoyed the experience of both of those stories. I'll start off with Disgaea 5 first. There was someone who I think uploaded all the cutscenes like the night that the game came out, and I watched all those over the course of a day or two. Even though my role in that one was a little bit more limited, it was still a really, really fun challenge, and working with the new director, Kevin McMullen, and getting to work for NIS America, which I'd already done Lull in the Sea by that point for them at Bang Zoom. It was really, really cool. It was really the first time that I ever got like a leading villain character like that in anything, that wasn't produced by myself or anything. Void, I guess I'm going to say also, this will probably be going into spoilers for those two games. So if you don't want to know stuff, or if you don't really care, just putting that out there, but either way. Void Dark, when I was first recording for him, I definitely had a blast doing him, but I wasn't entirely sure if he was a character that I found to be all that relatable. Like to myself, like as a person, because obviously he's a crazed psychopathic villain who's committing a lot of horrible things for what he believes is what he wants to do. In his case, and I'm going to go into some of this stuff about Dezel later for Tales of Zestiria, but Void Dark is a character that because his whole deal is that he feels responsible for his sister Lise, being dead because of all this shit with Kilia and all that, with them growing up with each other, and he has this serious complex against Kilia, for the fact that he was taught the ultimate demon technique by Goldion instead of him, and instead of his biological son, being the one who mastered it, even though his dad really wanted him to get it, and etc. But he just, he was too coaxed by the dark side, etc. With Lise, the fact that he was going out of his way to do all these really terrible things at the behest of everybody else, all just for the sake of trying to bring her back to life and keep her alive again, after what had happened. I feel like Void Dark is a cautionary tale kind of character. He's when things get way too out of control and they go way too far. In terms of him thinking no, this person is so important to me that I would give up anything and everything for the sake of bringing them back, even though that's probably not what they want. but selfishly it's what he wants because he cared that much about his sister. The fact that he was also so openly bitter against his dad for not being one to be his successor, when really it seemed like Killia was only taken in by Goldion. Obviously I'm sure Goldion wanted to help him when he was down, but he was also kind of this like, hey, I'm creating motivation for you, my biological son, Void Dark, to want to, really work hard and get this technique and everything. But he let the kind of dark side of himself get a little too, take over a little bit too much. And he just never, was able to see the light until really the very, very, very end. And even then that was kind of arguable because the fact that all of like this negativity and the kind of evil side of Void Dark came out in the form of that, that whatever the hell that thing was that kind of took over Lise's body in the end, and and then fused together with her and became the final boss. It's like, even though Void Dark maybe might have seen the light, thanks to Killia, beating the crap out of him, rightfully so at the end, it's kind of up for debate as to whether or not he really, he really did believe him or not, or if he really did change even at the very end. Perhaps there's more to that story, but in due time. Likewise, so moving over to Dezel on Tales of Zestiria, I find even as I'm just thinking about it now, there are definitely some similarities in terms of, I guess some of the motivation of like really, really caring about one specific person. I remember, so when I did the scene, this was the big scene for Dezel. I guess, again, spoiler territory, so here we go. When I did the scene that led up to Dezel sacrificing himself, I was told ahead of time by the guys at Bandai Namco and everybody. They gave me the basic kind of idea of what his beginning, middle, and end was. Not absolutely every single facet because we just wouldn't have time for that, but definitely they gave me a kind of a primer for like what he was going to be going through from beginning to end and why he was the way he was and what he was going through and everything. Seeing, and I had looked up the cutscenes in Japanese after the game came out earlier this year because I wanted to actually like see it. I saw bits of the animation as we were dubbing, the scene leading up to him, being shot out of the gun and everything, and then, and then the conversation with Rose before he kind of moves on to the next world and everything. I saw all that stuff, but I had enough context for what was going on that I could do it. But definitely seeing it unfold in the final story gave me a completely different perspective. Having a better understanding of how the universe or I guess the world of Zestiria, because I think all the Tales series are all kind of like in sort of one universe, I think. But understanding how the whole world works with the Seraphim and the blessings of the different parts of the land and everything. So I had a better idea of what the deal was with the Wind Riders and why Dezel and Lafarga, his friend, were kind of following around the, Rose and her crew and everything. and then watching the scene unfold with like when he realizes, oh, this is my fault. This is why, the Prince of the Land was infected with malevolence and why he was going after Rose. And basically, Dezel being selfish and having those feelings and not wanting, things to go, the way that he didn't want. He didn't want to lose these people that he grew so attached to and cared about it. And, and my interpretation is that he completely had a thing for Rose, like from the beginning, is that he fell in love with her and how cool she was, and et cetera. And when he thought about the fact of, the Wind Riders might be disbanded and she might be getting married to this this douchey prince guy or whatever, he got selfish. And then his blessing of the land with the other Wind Seraphim went haywire, and it caused all these issues. And it's what ultimately led Rose to this assassination path of life, and and him wanting to protect her and everything. And I said this on an interview I did with Brutal Gamer recently, who were very nice enough to interview me. In some ways, Rose is lucky that she had Dezel and later on Saray and the others to protect her. But in some ways, if he wasn't there to do all this in the first place, then feasibly she wouldn't have had to deal with any of that stuff at all. And so who can say whether that's good or bad? That's entirely up to you to kind of determine that, of course. But yeah, seeing kind of how Dezel chose to handle that entire situation and, how he went about doing everything, the path that he walks, and in similar ways, the path that Void Dark walks, they're extremes. And they're not necessarily the paths that if I'm in a situation like that, because I can relate, they're not the decisions that I would make, but they're completely understandable and still in some ways relatable, to our lives as just normal people. Throughout my life, I've definitely had cases where I've believed in something so much, and sometimes in cases of like I've cared about a person so much that like I don't think straight. I'm not thinking, the most logically, and suddenly my sense of what I think is the best for everybody isn't necessarily the best way to go about it. Seeing that now, it's like, oh, okay, now this changes everything, and it's like, Jesus Christ, what am I even doing with that, And likewise, in Dezel's case, I've been very, down on myself and like, oh my God, everything is my fault. And, certainly not the level of trauma. I mean, his case, it was so traumatic that he literally went blind from, how devastated he was by the fact that just, realizing, oh my God, this is my fault that this happened. The other kind of ugly truth that, I won't be afraid to admit here is, like both characters, both in the case of Void Dark towards Killia and Dezel towards Simone, I definitely know how to hold a grudge and take it too incredibly far. At least not in terms of like exacting revenge, but definitely in terms of like, it affecting me. And it's something from a personal standpoint, not to get like, too preachy here, but from a personal standpoint, it's something that I've tried to, learn how to let go of grudges. And like, when I feel that somebody is morally fucked up or morally like, no, like that's not right. And I don't agree with that. And I will do anything I can to prove them otherwise, etc. Because like with Void Dark, it was, Killia, you piece of shit. I blame you for this. I blame you for me not having anything, and not only not having, actually not even not having what I want, but rather he feels that Killia took away everything that he ever wanted. He took away the opportunity for the ultimate demon technique to inherit from his dad, to make his dad proud. He took away the life of his sister, who was one of the only people that he ever trusted or cared about ever. And so he holds that entirely against Killia, even though Killia really hasn't done fucking anything wrong whatsoever. And in fact, he's much more justified in his wanting to get revenge, along with maybe some of the others, although maybe I think Killia probably has the most righteous reason of the group. Maybe Usalia as well. Usalia had a pretty understandable story for the most part, and she was kind of my favorite character, I think, of the bunch, and watching the full story. But anyway. In the case of Dezel, he was kind of projecting, I think, his hatred on himself and his, being down on himself onto Simone, because Simone was there to kind of taunt him and etc. And, he felt that she was partially responsible for the malevolence breaking out and, the reason why all the shit was happening with Rose and what led, to them becoming, these people that were risking their lives and becoming assassins and all this shit, It's a whole mess. And it's like, when stuff like that happens, you begin to like lose sight of like, okay, what is actually the truth here? What is really what the case is? Do you want to admit what it is that really has happened and why everything sucks and why it's gotten to be this way? Are you trying to like take the problem of what you feel is your responsibility and pin it on somebody else because you don't know how to deal with it? You don't have the capacity to deal with it yourself. In my case, the grudge holding and the being obsessed with a person and wrongfully doing what you think is right are both two separate issues for me that I've contended with in different ways in my life. But definitely being blinded to what may or may not be really the right thing to do is definitely, it's definitely a relatable thing on both cases and in both of those characters for me. Probably a bit more with Dezel because Void Dark was much more of an extremity and far less of something that that I think I could ever see myself doing. In the case of Dezel too, I certainly wouldn't say I would ever actually go through with what he ended up doing. I mean, at least not in like a realistic scenario of like I'll literally put my life on the line. I've come close in terms of like I've only ever in my life, I'll be personal here as well. Only once in my life have I ever been truly like I want to kill myself. Only ever one real time that I've been that down, and it's never happened again, thank God. I won't go into the details, but it was only one time in my life that I've ever been that far gone. And but during that time, I also was like, oh my God, I just want to do I just want to do the right thing. I don't know how to go about it. I've screwed up everything. I'm furious at myself. Oh God, what do I do?
So in terms of what Dezel was feeling, I've definitely been there. I completely understand, that type of emotion and, how it can completely throw you off balance. Likewise, that final conversation with Rose, as he's kind of, moving off into the afterlife, or whatever it is wherever it is that the seraphim go, or whatever happens to them when they've, given up their physical form. I really put my all into that performance, and I'm very, very satisfied with how it came out, for sure. And seeing Caitlin's performance along with it, because Rose hadn't been recorded yet when I was doing that scene, so I didn't get to hear her performance, but she really knocked it out of the park, and I was very, very satisfied with that. His words about how he was really grateful to her, because I think he realized that he was the lucky one. He was the lucky one to have Rose. Well, for one thing, all of the, Soraya and everybody being so accepting and open and cool with him. But more importantly, the fact that Rose was so incredibly open and understanding and supportive when she found out the truth right then and there, which, as Simone was kind of teasing, it's like, oh, I don't think, I wonder if you would agree with his method and, him being, owning 100%, like, yes, I did this. I don't care. Because this is what I live for. This is what I believe is right. I'm truly owning this, and I don't care, whatever. The whole time he was misguided in what he thought was best for her, and it really wasn't until he sacrificed himself and he has that moment of like, this is what I feel is the one good thing that I did, and I'm sorry for everything that I did, but I'm also very grateful to you. And the fact that Rose gives him these supportive words, as he's leaving, and this really, really emotional, heartfelt moment. And then the completely new stuff that I had never seen at all and didn't know anything about was seeing all the other characters basically mourning his loss, and staying realistic to what it is that he did, and what he did that was right and what was wrong, but honoring what it is that he did, and especially Rose kind of repeating what his message was, and when she is crying about it. And, again, Caitlin knocked it out of the park and did really amazing. Everybody did amazing on the recording of that game. But yeah, seeing that was very, very, very meaningful to me. And I mean, not to sound biased towards Dezel Morrison Void Dark. I mean, of course, he had a little bit more meat to him because he was one of the playable characters. but the fact that as an actor I've been very lucky that these characters that I've gotten to do have been so meaningful personally to me, in that, if anything, they've kind of maybe in some ways taught me things, and in some other ways kind of reaffirmed what it is that, that I feel about things, and opened my eyes to like other sort of perspectives on everything. And that's been really important and really powerful. And the other thing too is seeing, because I mean, I've also been lucky in the fact that I produce content and I make stuff like Tome, and that I've gotten to see how my work has impacted others. Especially, there were a lot of really nice comments on the behind the scenes material I was putting out for all the last few episodes of the show, and seeing how many people I left an impact on with that story, and even going back to the panel where everybody was cheering and crying and laughing and enjoying the finale of the story. Seeing, and all the credit, of course, goes to NIS America and Bandai Namco for the stories that they crafted in these great games that people love to play. The fact that I've seen people very, very much affected by, and, were taken aback by, Void Dark's stuff, and, Dezel's whole beginning, middle, and end and all that, is really cool. And I'm really, really appreciative of it. And, I mean, the entertainment industry is just very like, you just consume, and you either give a shit or you don't, and that just is what it is. But when raw emotions like that are evoked from an emulation of raw emotions through a story being told with visuals and music and sound and voice performances and everything, and especially when you add gameplay on top of it to make it a cohesive experience, it takes a lot of work. And the fact that everybody's enjoyed it makes it all really, really worth it to me. And the other thing too is, Voiceoctover has been incredible, because in that time, I've had I've had another job that I booked for a new studio for a video game, and I actually had one other thing that I worked on come out during the course of November. sorry, for October, that is. We're in November now. I'm not going to say what it is because I actually want to leave it a mystery until sometime later for a particular reason. But if you were able to catch me in a certain thing that came out during October, I won't say when or what it is, or I'll say, no, I won't even say what it is. But if you heard me, if you caught me somewhere, then good on you, because you've got some sharp ears. But yeah, so that's going to wrap us up, and thank you to everybody for watching and enjoying and listening to all these videos, to everybody who played Disgaea 5 and Tales of Zestiria and enjoyed them for what they are. Thank you guys so much for supporting the games, and I hope that you enjoyed myself and all the others that I had on board, and everybody in the cast's performances. We worked really hard on those games. And that's going to wrap us up, and that's going to bring a close to Voiceoctover as we're now in November when I'm putting this out. But yeah, back to the usual grind. I've got a few more planned specific Kirblogs over the next few weeks. I won't say what they are just yet. But as you as you have usually done, please feel free to leave comments with suggestions or hit me up on Twitter, Tumblr, Facebook, whatever you feel like for future Kirblog topics, anything like that. Thank you all again, very much so, and I will see you all soon with more cool stuff, I hope, and thanks a lot. Bye.